Hi, so I'm going to do a video about vaccines, my experience with my vaccine, what the available options are, and if you're opposed to the vaccine, you're going to want to stay tuned because I got some good information for you to help you justify your decisions here. So, and let me just start with that. The best reason to not get a vaccine is because you simply do not want it. That's pretty straightforward. I don't want the vaccine. I don't want to get the vaccine. Great. I respect that. I really do. You have the right to not give in to peer pressure and not do what the crowd is doing because how you feel. That is absolutely fine. My advice and the purpose of this video for you is, feelings are not always facts, and sometimes we make decisions based on feelings which are irrational. And so what I want to offer you is this one piece of advice. We have 5 vaccines now. Consult your physician, go through all 5 of them because there are 2 traditional vaccines, 1 almost traditional vaccine, and 2 experimental vaccines, which we all know about, and I'll get into those. But you have not 1, but 2 traditional vaccines now available. And a lot of people just don't know that because everybody's been too busy forcing ideologies down each other's throat, and nobody's actually been paying attention to what's happening. So I'm going to clear that up. So traditional vaccines. AstraZeneca is a traditional vaccine, and the Johnson & Johnson is a traditional vaccine. When AstraZeneca first came out, there was a major misinformation campaign, and it is wrong to say that it contains aborted fetus cells. It does not. They use aborted fetus cells in the manufacturing of the vaccine, but in the final product, it is no aborted fetus cells are in the vaccine. Now, regarding that, it gets presented as they're actively taking recently aborted fetuses and putting them in a blender and blending them up and injecting it into people. No, that's not what's happening. The quote aborted fetus cells come from the MRC5 cell line. It was established in the early 60s before we ever even landed on the moon. There was a lady, she opted to have an abortion, and this particular baby had a certain special property about their cells. They realized that we can take these cells and culture them indefinitely. And if you're gonna cultivate a virus for the purposes of a vaccine, the viruses need to have a cell in which it can invade and replicate itself and kill the cell. Well, we have 1 of 2 choices as to where to get those cells. We can just inject people with pestilence and then draw all their blood and try and purify all their blood. Or we can leverage the fact that we have these special cells that are fairly unique in the world of nature, and we can culture these things indefinitely. We're not harming anything that's living. I am pro-life, but an abortion happened in the 60s. What happened, happened. Let's move forward with it. At least that baby's life did not go to waste because that baby's life is saving lives now. And sorry to tell you, but no, the vaccines do not contain those cells. They just don't. They don't. So that's all you need to know about AstraZeneca. It is a traditional vaccine. And guess what? A lot of the vaccines, not all of them, but a lot of them do use the MRC5 cell line. And there's a few others that are like it. But yeah, MRC5, that's the cell line. You just have to decide whether or not you're okay with that. But I mean, the abortion happened in the early 60s. Like I said, the abortion happened before we landed on the moon. Nothing's bringing that baby back. But it saved thousands upon thousands of lives and is still saving lives today. Now, the Johnson & Johnson vaccine is also a very similar vaccine. It is a viral vectored vaccine. Again, they inject a virus into your body, and it is not a COVID virus. What it is, if you picture if you picture a virus as like just a baseball or something with nails sticking out of it, right? Think like Pinhead from Hellraiser, you know, where he had all the nails sticking out of his face, right? Those are the spike proteins, and I'll get into all that later. But viruses have spike proteins, which they use to go poke their way into a cell. It's more complicated than that. I'm not trying to complicate it, right? So with these, it's an adenovirus. What they do is they take the virus, so again, think of like a ball with nails in it, right? They take an adenovirus and they pull all the nails out, and they replace those nails with different nails, namely the nails from a coronavirus, so that it is 100% not COVID that they are injecting in you. It's an adenovirus with COVID spikes on it, and that's the spike protein. That is how AstraZeneca works. That is how Johnson & Johnson works. It's deeper than that, and yes, if you know a lot about the vaccines, it is, I'm giving a very, very simplified, basic explanation. Yes, I do understand it is more complicated than that. I'm not trying to take people to university with this, but the concepts are still the same. It's an adenovirus with spike proteins on it. Novavax is, if you take that concept of like a baseball with nails, with Novavax, get rid of the baseball. All you need are the nails. You say, well, what good is that? If there's no virus, there's nothing running there's no captain running the ship. Well, what they do is they mix it with what's called an adjuvant, which is basically an irritant. It's just a fancy word for it. So they inject all of the spike proteins in with an irritant to spur your immune system into action, right? And so your immune system says, hey, something happened here. What are all these nails doing here? What is all this spike protein? This spike protein must be what's causing all the problems. So I must tune myself to recognize these spike proteins, and anything with these spike proteins is a problem. So that's Novavax. That's the one that I said is mostly traditional, semi-experimental. Okay. And then the mRNA vaccines. Now, the whole narrative around the mRNA vaccines has gone full circle, because when they first came out, one of the primary reasons to reject getting the vaccine was because it wasn't a traditional vaccine, that it didn't even contain any virus particles or not even any spike proteins. It didn't even contain anything about the virus in it whatsoever. It's just mRNA, and it can change your DNA and all this other stuff. No, thank God in the world of biology, mRNA cannot change DNA, because biologically everything would just be a shit show and we would just be wads of goop, if even that. So thank God mRNA cannot change things. That would be like saying a Post-it note could change the Constitution. No, it can't. So, plus, we definitively know the things that do change DNA, things like radiation, and cancers, sugars. There's no shortage of things, chemicals, right? Toxic chemicals, carcinogens. There's no shortage of things that do alter DNA, and never, ever, ever, ever in the history of medicine has anybody said, mRNA can change our DNA and cause cancers and all that. No. Just no. No. Second of all, mRNA in and of itself is so weak and potent, you have to cryogenically freeze it, because room temperature air is so energetic that it will pummel mRNA to death and it falls apart. It is that delicate. So when you inject it into somebody's warm body, it is not going to survive for more than a few hours on its own. They wrap it in a lipid protein envelope so that it gets pulled into your cells and quite honestly, only a few cells get a chance to actually get it and read it and process it into spike proteins, and then they're gone. So cells dispose of mRNA after it's used. And even the mRNA that doesn't get absorbed into cells, it's not going to last too long anyways. This stuff is insanely delicate. Now, like I said before, the original narrative to avoid it was that it's not a vaccine. It doesn't even contain any part of the virus whatsoever. And now, they're saying that to avoid. Well, my video just cut off. But if you make the choice not to get vaccinated, you get COVID, and it's a walk in the park and a total breeze for you, then you made a good decision. Straight up. If you get the vaccine and you get vaccine injured, you didn't make a good decision. You know, you have to live with the consequences. So just be prepared to live with the consequences. And it doesn't matter if you're for the vaccine or against the vaccine. Everybody benefits by checking with their doctor and making sure that, hey, you know what? 4 of these 5 weren't for me, but I didn't know about the 5th one. And the 5th one's actually a good option for me. And I can take it without any kind of risk. So why not? Right? That's all I'm saying. That's all I'm saying. Get yourself informed by an actual physician. Because it's no longer cute and cuddly. There are no more restrictions. There's no more interventions on trying to slow this thing down. It is coming upon us like a freight train. Same as a freight train. It is not going to apologize to anything on the tracks. So that's what I got. Good luck, everybody.